All right, so I am going about my business here inside my house, and I get a knock at my door, and it's a local school board member. Now, I asked her about a couple things, but we haven't really talked about everything, so I thought it'd be cool. She wanted to sit down and do an interview. I did see that you were endorsed by Democrats.
I was.
On your brochure, so this is going to be a little interesting. So, you want my vote. I've already told you I'm conservative. I voted for Trump. You and your husband didn't, but I want to see other things that you believe, because there's a lot of controversial things in our school right now, and I appreciate you sitting down. Let everybody know your name and what you're running for and all that stuff, and whatever they need to know about you.
Hi, I'm Cali Ross. I am running for Sherwood School Board. I am a mom of 3. I have a child that is going into the high school. We've been here since he was 16 months old, and now we have a daughter that's 16 months old as well. And then I have my middle son here, Tenzi, who's 10, and he was at Middleton, but they were unable to support him in the educational setting, so we had to remove him from the school. Gotcha.
So what do you think? We're going to get right into it. What do you think about a big topic that's happening here in Oregon is like you're seeing, it depends on who you talk to, right? If you talk to a conservative, it's men and women's sports. If you talk to a Democrat or maybe a liberal, it's a trans in women's sports. Do you think it's fair for, however you want to call him, I call him a man, do you think it's fair that women's sports is kind of being invaded by non-biological women?
I mean, I can honestly say that both my opponent and I will vote the same on this matter, because it is a state mandate to allow children to participate in the sport that the gender they identify with.
Even though it's been a mandate by President Trump, a federal mandate, and he's threatening to pull funding from schools because it's a federal thing now. It's against federal law now, wouldn't you say?
Currently, we have to follow state mandate, so both my opponent and I would be voting in favor of allowing trans children to.
And Abby is Abby's stance on that?
That is Abby's stance. She's put that on social media that she would vote for the state mandate. She would continue the state mandate.
So what do you think personally about it?
Personally, I do support trans children. I support the identity they choose, and I think that's a big part of what DEI means, and having representation in classrooms. And I mean, I don't think I'm a Democrat or a Republican. I think I am a humanist, and to me, that's being human, is supporting other humans.
Yeah, I appreciate you sitting down, and I know this is a tough situation, tough thing to talk about, but wouldn't you say, what about girls? What about girls that weren't born biological men? Girls, what about girls' sport? What about their rights? You know, you talk about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. That is not inclusive to real biological girls. So what about them? What about girls that are getting, like, you had Leah Rose over at IDB Wells that won the high jump, and the rest of the girls that finished after lost out on that first place opportunity because he has an unfair advantage. I mean, what do you think about, what about girls?
I do like that you said she.
What about girls? I corrected myself.
No, I think.
What about girls? What about actual biological girls?
I think actual biological girls, transgender girls, I think they're human, and I trust them. I trust them to do what they do.
So you think it's fair that, I mean, obviously men are built differently than women, and you think that's fair that a biological man who now identifies as a woman, as a girl, comes in with all these advantages and just smashes women's sports? I mean, you really think that's fair?
I think it's a state mandate, and as a school board member that has to vote for, again, with the Oregon State Board of Education, I would vote in favor, as would Abby. So
appreciate it. What do you think? So there was a levy passed here. I would say, what was that, 2 years ago?
2023, yes.
2023. I was not in favor of it. I didn't think that. You mentioned budgeting. This is something where we do agree on.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have voted for that, and I was against it. Why?
I did vote for the levy.
You did vote for it.
But I was not for it. And
Okay.
I voted for it because I felt we had no other options at that point. I was angry that the levy came forth. Sherwood has never had a levy. Every other school district around us, this was our first levy we had to pass, and it was because of a board error, a huge board error made by the current superintendent and the head of the budget committee. And it cost Sherwood $7 million deficit, in which our taxpayers had to pay. And I am very concerned that we are currently budgeting our levy runs out in 2028, and I'm very concerned that we are budgeting based on needing another levy in 2028. What I do is work very closely with legislators on education funding, on special education funding, on Medicaid in schools. Mm-hmm. I think there are several ways that we can improve our finances here in the district level so that possibly we don't need to depend on taxpayers to keep boosting us. Because I
You
know
kind of sound conservative right there.
I know.
Right
Well,
there.
you know,
She said her husband was conservative, right? You said your husband's conservative.
he used to be. He's a
more conservative.
We're both from Idaho. We both were raised in a fairly.
My cousin would thank you for moving here, by the way, as you know, as a Democrat.
Yeah,
and-
I mean, I think
Just
that
kidding.
it's really easy to say, you know, this is conservative, this is Democratic, whatever. But this is just it's human. It's human things, and when you work at the state level, you have to work on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah.
My son has a bill that's currently named after him, Tensley's Law, and it was originally drafted by Senator Knope, who was the minority leader at the time.
Yep.
Short session, Senator Hayden, love him, really close with him and his chief of staff, Julie. And then this session, it was with Senator Patterson. And Senator Patterson is a Democrat. She's one of the leaders in the Democrat Party. So, you know, to work with these leaders on both sides of the aisle is really a good way to get things done. And bipartisan position in funding is what I believe in. I believe that we need to focus on our fiscals. I believe that we need to make sure that we are putting school money into schools. I think we need to be supporting our diverse amounts of programs. I think we need to put more money into our band program. That's a national.
I want to move on to the last topic
Sure.
because I want to let you guys go knock more doors.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate the time, but Portland Public Schools, which is just down the road, what is the issue with? What do you think their issue is? Why are families leaving? Why are they on a population decline? The city of Portland. Why are they having to make huge cuts? What do you think the problem is with Portland Public Schools, and how would you keep those problems out of this school district?
Again, I think this all goes back to the state. Like 70 to 80% of our funding comes from the general fund. We need to advocate to fully fund K through 12. We need to advocate for high disability grants. We need to advocate for special education funding. We need to put more money into our schools and less money into other, maybe not necessary things. And this, you'll get me here, you'll like this, but I actually believe that we do need to reduce the Medicaid funding. I think that I think there is a lot of waste in Medicaid, and we need to fine tune it so that it's going to places it needs.
You saying reducing it by getting rid of the waste, or just or reducing it overall? I don't agree with reducing it.
I think we need to direct it to the person it needs to help. Right now, we have a lot of agencies, middlemen, and we're just wasting money there. So I think it really needs to be directed to where it needs to go without the middleman.
Would you listen to all parents if you were elected? Would you not just write off parents that maybe aren't with you on the men and women's sports thing and the trans thing? And would you actually listen to all parents? Because, you know, we have a lot of these people in this area and these politicians, they only listen to, I mean, Oregon is completely controlled by the Democrats. There's really no balance here. Would you listen to all parents? I mean, would you take all of their concerns seriously? A personal thing to me is during the COVID era, the whole mask mandates and the whole vaccine mandates that happened, but the mask mandates at school, how would you have stood on that?
I am pro-mask. I have a child with disabilities, and for me, you know, he had his first cardiac arrest January 2020, and it was due to a virus. It may have been COVID, it was so early in it, and I watched my child be put on heart-lung bypass for 3 weeks. So, yeah, I think you can look back. Like, I know that I get a lot of people on the community info page, because I was very passionate about masking back in 2020, and a lot of that
was the complete opposite.
Yeah,
because I think it should have been a right. It should have been a right for all of us to decide for ourselves. And plus, I'm not an expert in virology or anything, but the COVID particles are they're still getting through it, and the mask didn't do anything. In fact, Fauci came out and first said, you can find that video where he said, masks, you can wear a mask if it makes you feel better, but it really doesn't stop the spread. And then all of a sudden he went to a mask mandate. I just think we should have left it up to parents. And I think that there's a theme of what's going on in our school districts in our country right now is there's a theme of take the parents out of the equation, let the kids in the school and the government decide, and screw the parents, and the parents don't know better, we know better. We're seeing that everywhere, from Washington State, where the Senate majority leader up there, Jamie Peterson, said that you don't have a right to have a say in your kid's health. If a kid's old enough to get pregnant, the parents don't have rights. I mean, where do you stand against all that? Are you going to stand for parents' rights? And I'll leave that the last one, and then we'll finish off. Just tell everybody how they can find you, your website, and all that.
I mean, obviously I have 3 children, and I care very much about how they're being raised and what they're being exposed to. I also have a lot of faith in our educators. I think Sherwood does a great job of picking amazing teachers, and I want to continue to put that trust in our educators. at my own home, we do monitor internet use. We do monitor different aspects of my son. He's 14, so he doesn't have complete autonomy. But there's a lot that I do trust him, and I trust the way that I've parented him to make good choices, and I trust our educators. I want to say that very clearly, that I do trust our educators here in Sherwood, and I want to give them the supports they need to continue educating our children.
If a kid wants to change his gender, do you think that parents have a right to know?
I would hope that the child would be able to talk to his family. I'd hope that the family would be open
What if they didn't
to
support
discussing
it?
that.
What if they didn't support
I
it?
actually met a father the other day that has a transgender child who he was saying, I'm from Iowa, so he was still like trying to figure out, he was having a different difficulty with the pronouns, and he was telling me that his child had a kidney infection because there's only one bathroom in the high school that they feel comfortable using, and that bathroom is actually on the opposite side of most of their classes. So, I hope that Sherwood is a community in which kids feel comfortable going to their parents and talking about that. And even if my child came to me and said, I'm changing my gender, if I didn't agree with that, it's still my child. I still love them. I still want to support them.
You still want to have say over the decisions that your child makes. You don't think the government knows better. And that's the issue, is a lot of these governments around the country, left-leaning governments, are taking the spot of parents, and they're saying parents don't have a right. If you don't agree with your kid's choice in life, then we know better, and we're going to let the kid do what they want. And that's the problem. That's all. I don't care. Like I said, when you're an adult, you want to be trans, you want to identify. It's not a popular belief. I've taken flack for this, but it's like, we're a free country. You do what you want. But when you start targeting our kids with the agenda, the trans agenda, and you start letting kids make decisions and you push the parents out, that's where I have a problem. Is that fair?
That's absolutely, you're welcome to your beliefs, and obviously they're different than mine. I do support trans rights, and I do support children. I support all children. And
support trans rights, not girls' rights.
I think I support girls' rights too. I think girls
their sports are being taken over. I mean, regardless on how we believe on the issue, you have to understand there's a thing of fairness with a biologically born male that has male body parts, like Aiden Gallagher in Portland. His quads are literally bigger than mine. He's more muscular than I am. You really think in your heart of hearts that it's fair that he goes into women's sports, biological women's sports, and just clears the field? I don't think that's right.
And right now it's a state mandate, and I agree with the state mandate. It's such a difficult subject because don't know.
It's really easy, but it's like I think people have gotten so afraid. People like you that have gotten so afraid. I think you know what's right, but I think you've gotten so afraid of saying the right thing because you'd be canceled. You'd be written off by half the electorate. And I hate that about our country, that we've gotten so polarized that we can't have these discussions and people got to pick sides. It's just common sense. We can't have biological men running in women's sports. It's not fair to real women, to girls. And if you want to identify as a certain thing, that's one thing. But when you start taking over women's spaces, that's where I draw the line.
I can understand that's definitely your feeling, and it's definitely
I've already
valid.
put you on the hot seat enough.
No,
you tell people how they can find you and why they should vote for you, and I'll let you have the last word.
I do want to just say though, I support all girls, whether they're trans or they're biologically female. I do support women.
Okay, we'll leave it at that.
Okay, sounds good. I just wanted to say thank you. This was actually pretty cool, and I do appreciate it. And
I'm not as bad as probably what you've heard about me, huh?
Right?
She goes, I know who you are. I was like, oh, great.
Am I as bad as you heard?
I actually haven't heard anything about you. I'm really
wow.
and which is probably a good thing.
Yeah,
that's probably
actually,
a good thing.
Phew. No, I think that, I think this was really cool, and I really do enjoy speaking to people that believe differently, and I think that there is an opportunity to change beliefs. I think there's an opportunity to understand different beliefs and use them within our schools.
Well, I'll be honest with you, because I'm a very forward guy. I try to be respectful as much as I can. I don't think you could have my vote. I was really looking optimistic because
I do like the fiscal.
I like the fiscal. I might not vote for anybody, to be honest with you.
Well, I hope you do vote.
I like you, but I don't, and I support what you're doing with your child and the bill. I hope I'll look into it, but it sounds like a good thing.
Yeah, Tennessee's law. It's very bipartisan.
It looks like, bipartisan in Oregon's like, according to the left, it's like, okay, well, if we're okay with it, then it's okay.
We've had way more support from the Republican Party on Tennessee's law than we have Democratic Party, and we've been really lucky.
The only thing I just can't be with you when my daughter is playing lacrosse, and if I were to see her get cheated out of her sport, like other girls are across Oregon, I can't vote for people that are going to be on that side of that issue. It's not fair to real women, in my opinion. But I really do appreciate you
that's fair. That's
sitting
and
down.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, tell people where they can find you. Tell your socials and all that.
Let's see. Just my campaign page keeps getting taken down.
Oh no.
But you can find me at friendsofcaliross.com, and just look me up on Facebook, Callie Andrews Ross. I'm pretty open. I'm always happy to answer questions, and I'm happy to sit down with anybody and talk. And even if we don't agree, I think we can still have a good conversation, and I think we can still.
You sound a little bit more reasonable than Courtney Neron, so maybe you should run for state rep. I don't know.
Well, I'm very proud of. I have her endorsement, and I've worked closely with her, and I really like Rep Neron.
I know.
Or Senator Neron.
I appreciate you, Callie, and it's nice to meet you. And thank you to your husband for filming us and your child. And I wish you.
It's not too choppy.
I wish you guys the best. Okay.
Thank you very much.
God bless.